everyone.
Hi.
And welcome. Elmo's here, everybody.
Actually, it's me, your pal, Bleep. Because a certain corporation that owns many of things would probably sue if they actually had me say the name of whom I was imitating.
Oh, we could say Mickey Mouse.
Oh God, John! No, John! No!
You know what I'm going to do? I'll be Mickey Mouse saying "Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Loungecast with your host Anthony and John."
That was a frightening impression. Like, that was kind of Mickey, but also like if Mickey's balls dropped, and then like he addicted like a nicotine habit.
I'm very proud of my Mickey Mouse. Thank you very much. And he is not a nicotine addict.
It's just like, yes, this is Mickey Mouse.
Christ! Oh my God!
You're listening to the podcast.
Oh, this is going on the internet, friends.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, before Mickey Mouse ruined my intro, welcome to episode 4 of the Ludic Loungecast. I'm your host, John Soares.
Wait a second, I thought I was John Soares.
No, you wish.
I do wish.
Only in your dreams, which is okay.
So speaking of things that I actually wish, that I wished, past tense, for, that actually came true was all of you, our loyal listeners. Almost 30-something of you guys downloaded. Maybe 4 of those could have been me, but that's besides the point. A lot of you guys out there downloaded. I saw some ratings. I saw some reviews. And I know I'm speaking for John. Yes?
And you did bypass the big news, which is this is the first episode where the Ludic Loungecast is live.
Live
on the internet.
Well, technically, by the time they hear this, it won't be live.
I mean, well, you get the idea.
I know. I'm just crushing dreams.
I know. I'm the straight man to your Jerry Lewis.
Busting nuts and busting balls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That was your motto in high school.
Yeah, baby. But anyway, on a more serious note, we just want to, from the bottom of our hearts, everyone out there, we thank you so much for sticking with our nonsensical, just rants, rambles, and everything and anything in between. We appreciate the fact that you supported us. We appreciate the fact that some of you even may have understood some of the stuff we were talking about.
Yeah. I mean, half of the podcast is just you and I shooting the shit and just talking about whatever tickles our fancy. But it's nice to know that people are listening and that they're enjoying it. And if you have any comments or concerns or ideas, please drop us a line at the Ludic Lounge on Twitter or at our Gmail at theludiclounge@gmail.com.
Do you think do they think we're expecting them to physically drop a line? Like they're gonna like send in it, compose an emails and say 7 years ago, like an actual line?
You know what? Now I want to get a P.O. box just so somebody can do that and just, send us letters saying 7 years ago. We used to do this all the time and send people letters when we wanted to talk to them.
See, when you said a P.O. box, I thought you meant like you want somebody to send you a line of blow or something like that. And I was like, John, we don't ask for that yet.
The Postal Service doesn't send drugs through the mail. They only do that for the president.
Oh, I don't understand what that means.
Do you? Do you not? Or do you? I don't even know what that means. I'm just riffing.
So speaking of presidential things, which has no actual tie into anything presidential, although I guess we can say we're the presidents of this podcast, so there we go. Special shout out to one member who reached out to the Ludic Lounge. Wanted a special shout out. And so, Jason, just because you hi, Jay. That's an inside joke between him and I. Since you reached out for a shout out on the Ludic Lounge, you just got it, buddy.
We're gonna have a shout out corner by the end.
I hope enough people listen and actually, confer with us that you're like, hey, can you say the word dick on your next podcast?
But say it in like French. Le dick.
I was gonna go wee dick.
Oui. Wow, we went off the rails quick.
Yeah, no, yeah. So if you're listening to this now, we have a special kind of B-side reel pod that has been recorded will be edited soon. And hopefully you guys have already listened to it if we posted it. If not, maybe it'll be on the same week or later this week that you are listening to this. And it's called Ludic Lives. And essentially, the idea behind this concept was one we came up with was we wanted to give this time and space to people that we find interesting, and we just wanted to ask about their narratives, ask about their life. And so we recorded our first one, and that should be edited and posted soon. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Please, again, I can't say this enough. Rate it, review it, let us know if you liked it, let us know you hated it. We might take both those things under consideration. No promises, though.
Definitely no promises.
No.
I am a petty bitch.
You say you're a petty bitch?
I am a petty bitch. I can be. If I so choose. Everything's about choice.
You think, like, Tom Petty's groupies were called just petty bitch? Like, I'm a petty bitch before it, like, took on its own, like, concept in the lexicon?
Maybe if they were drunk. I mean, they probably were. I mean, there was a lot going on back then.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, first of all.
Yeah, cocaine's a hell of a drug, man. I don't know how I made it out of the 80s.
Probably through your dad's ball sack because you weren't born yet. Oh, God, we should probably get on topic soon.
We'd hope so.
As we always do here at the Ludic Loungecast, and by always we mean this is episode 4, we will, Jesus Christ, I can't speak, which is, an essential thing to do in a podcast is the ability to speak. We're going to go over what we've been watching, what we've been playing as far as via video games. We'll probably pontificate on those things probably for far too long. Half of you will lose interest. The other half of you may actually be interested. So that'll be interesting.
It's usually my fault. So apologies in advance, folks.
John, no, don't apologize for your sexy ass voice and your sexy ass takes. Okay.
Nope. Yeah. Apparently I sound like my dad.
Yeah, we got a lot of that. So little background about our friend John here. John's dad was a local legend down in the California area. We'll be very unspecific about that. And,
yeah, we can actually be specific about it. I mean, the dad's never been too shy about it. I mean, Anthony and I are from the Central California. We won't say where, but just Central California. So yeah, the farm dairy belt of California. My dad grew up there, and after high school, he graduated 76 to about 79. He worked for the local top 40 radio station, KBOS, KBOS.
KBOS. I don't know if that was. I don't know if that was the thing. It just sounded right.
I'd have to ask my dad, to be honest. But like dad, my entire life has been like dad talking about how he debuted X song that was big in the 70s. Like the big story he gives is Journey.
Yes, bitch. I love this story.
Because Steve Perry, the former lead singer of Journey, I think
he's current now. Didn't he go back with the band at some point?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think he might have. But he.
I don't know. I can't stop believing that Steve Perry's back with the band.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ!
No, but I understand your confusion. I'm going to make that the official tagline of co-host Anthony for Ludic Loungecast.
No, but I understand your confusion.
Yeah, when people say, "Oh, Jesus Christ," after a really bad joke. Speaking of bad jokes, so I can interrupt your story more, John. Why did Oedipus never curse? Or Oedipus, however you pronounce his name.
You got it right the first time.
Because he kissed his mother with that mouth.
That's one motherfucker.
Yes, accurate.
Anyway,
jokes for people who lived in 680 BC.
They like to keep up on their Sophocles. Only in the.
As I like to say, Sophocles.
Don't you mean Huncules? Wait, shit, wrong one. Damn it.
John, you didn't understand my joke. That's fine.
You were referencing Hercules, goddammit.
No, I was referencing oh, please, man, when you got to explain a joke, it just doesn't make it that much funnier.
It would help if I was in on it, but whatever.
Anyway,
Steve Perry.
Steve Perry.
Actually have another Steve Perry story after this one, but
Don't worry, listeners. John's going to faithfully lead us to the end of his story.
I hope so. So Steve Perry was local to the area where we grew up in, I believe Hanford or something.
Yes, Hanford.
But so he he joined up with Journey. They were doing their thing, and then his grandma called KBOS and
KBOS.
thank you, Anthony. And she asked to hear her grandson's band Journey, and my dad was just like, "Well, Journey, that's new." So they I guess I don't know exactly how the system worked, but I guess they bought the record and then put it into circulation, and then like Dad was one of the first people to play Journey, and through his grandmother, they were able to get some of the band members into the station for interview. So my dad has a couple, pictures with Perry and I believe Neil Sean, and Dad actually has the platinum record for the record at the time because Journey attributed that album's success to the lead that K-Boss helped.
KBOS.
Thank you.
So what John, in his very humble way, is trying to say is that his father is a tastemaker when it comes to music. He is definitely a tastemaker. He is a king, which is why he endorses the Ludic Loungecast.
I don't even know if he's aware of it right now.
Why you gotta crush my dreams, man? That was just definitely my wheel in the sky, okay?
Did it keep on turning?
Yes. It's like I say, John, anywhere you want it, that's the way you need it.
She loved to laugh. She loved to sing. She loved everything.
Okay, you're cheating because I'm actually giving you fucking song titles and you're sitting here giving me lyrics, which is not...
I'm just that good. I'm sorry. I can't help being this fantastic.
That's true. It is a gift, yet a curse.
You want to hear my other Steve Perry story?
Yes.
So I heard this story on a podcast a couple of years ago from Josh Homme, the guy who leads Queens of the Stone Age. He's the guy who sings, basically. And he was telling the story that he was fixing up this house and then, some rental, I guess, or something. And he was doing fixing cabinets. And then he turns around and there's Steve Perry.
So what you're saying, he was a Homme man?
Yeah. That was ham-fisted.
That's how I like to deliver it here at the Ludic Loungecast.
With all them hams.
So did Steve Perry, sneak up on him? Was he, ninja Steve Perry?
Yeah, Steve Perry is apparently a ninja and would just hey, how you doing? So you're building a house? Is it for sale? It's like, no, Steve Perry, it's not. What are you doing here? Oh, just looking around because I can't.
Oh, man, I bet when Homme turned around, he was like, oh, Sherry!
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus.
Okay, I cheated because that wasn't a Journey song. It was a Steve Perry single. But, God damn it, I get extra points for creativity.
I mean, I'll give it to you. Let's get out of this Steve Perry hole, huh?
Yeah, boy, we got bogged down by this.
Fucking hell. You want to talk about what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're reading?
Well, first of all, I can't read, so it makes life difficult.
Oh, sure.
What I will say I have been doing is I recently finished my watch of West Wing, which was epic and did just spectacular fashion. I can see why it got all the Golden Globes, as John so told me, in episode 1 of Ludic Loungecast, now available on Spotify, Apple, and all the other podcatchers of your choice.
It's all over the place.
Just everywhere. All in your face, just in your hair. Sometimes it gets in your eye. Real annoying. But I just ran over you, John. I apologize.
I was just saying it's not salty, though.
No, not at all. Lots of pineapple juice.
Oh.
So after West Wing, I've kind of had this little bit of a void in television watching. My wife, Amanda, and I, when we tend to watch TV together, we watch a lot of just I was going to say reruns, but it's on Netflix, so it's just streaming. we're kind of going through Parks and Rec still, going through it. This is probably like our third walkthrough of it, which is still funny, still excellent. I still appreciate all the nuances about that show.
Now, I'm very much a layman in Parks and Rec, and I tried it, and I've heard from multiple sources that first season is very much
It's
not
rough. Yeah, the first season, and even the second season at times, those 2 seasons are rough. But if you can just push past through those, when you get introduced to Rob Lowe and Adam Scott's characters, that's when the show really starts to shine. It really hits on all cylinders. I won't say just skip those 2 seasons. I think you should watch them just so. But essentially, Parks and Rec, from my understanding, was created by the same creative team that created The Office. So for the first season, they try to do a lot of like office quirks that worked for that show. But it didn't really fit the ensemble, in my opinion, and, well, I guess a lot of other people's opinions. So they kind of switched gears midway through season 2 towards the end of it, and then season 3 just kind of hits it. It finds its own way, its own path.
So what you're saying is they were so dead set on recreating The Office, and then it kind of just didn't work because the ensemble was like anything. It was a different ensemble, so you can't have lightning strike twice.
Yeah, exactly. So while The Office worked in its own ensemble and its own way it was shot and written and things of that nature, it was perfect for that show. And Parks and Rec needed to do its own thing. It found its own voice, and by God, it hit on all cylinders. But again, this is all my opinion. This isn't like I haven't read any official reports or anything. But that's just from my own viewpoint, my own stand, if you will.
Can we pop the West Wing real quick?
Yeah.
How did the end? Is this this is not your first time through, right?
Actually, it was my first time, like, all the way through. Yeah.
Getting to the end of that, how did that make you feel?
So it ended very well. It kind of made me have a better understanding as far as what the what a lame duck president does. And for those unaware, a lame duck president is like when the president's in his like last year of office, and when another president is like going to be voted in or has already been voted in, you have that like kind of awkward time period where it's a transition from the old regime into the new regime. It kind of really helped me realize that, the president just doesn't sit on his ass and do nothing during that time period. Like there's still a country to run. There's still international policies to uphold and things like that. It was really good. It was a nice kind of swan song of wrapping up everything from the previous seasons while showing like a hope and a vision for the future. And I really, really I just really enjoyed the new president that ends up winning it all. I don't want to spoil it, but the new president who ends up taking over is more of like a bipartisan, like he's really hard on by president, and he actually invites the person he ran against for the presidency. He invites him into the cabinet as like Secretary of State. So like,
oh wow,
yeah, and that's, you hardly see that kind of bipartisanship.
You only ever see that in like the history books these days.
Yeah, it's very rare. So it was kind of just a nice insight. Just kind of gave that kind of like warm feeling that, hey, look, this guy who's taking over, it's not just all about him. It's not all just about one party. It's like, look, I need the best people available to help do this job, to help run this country and, shape policy throughout the world. Or not shape, but help influence policy around the world. And then that was a cool thing. That left me with a really good feeling, gave me with a kind of like a sense of hope. It's like, oh yeah, like this thing can be possible. And not just be bogged down with, politics from both aisles or, lobbyists from all around and things like that. It was really nice. It was really nifty. I like to think life imitates art, and that, there is still a lot of that. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know for a fact, because again, I am nowhere near to Washington. I'm nowhere near to any senators, representatives, anything of that nature to actually fully understand what goes on the inside. But I'd like to think that life often imitates art, and, that a lot of that's going on. And if it's not, hopefully it will go on in the future.
Do you think that there's room for the West Wing again in this TV landscape?
I think that there absolutely is. I'd actually like to see what a reboot looks like. And by a reboot, just kind of like a follow the contingency line. Because the show ended in like 04, 05. So it'd be interesting to see. Again, that was like, 10, 15 years ago at this point. So again, there would be another president see you since then. But it'd be nice that it's definitely a show that they could recreate and actually go on and show. And it might be good for today's society to actually, again, have that insight. Like, hey, you think you know what goes on in politics, but this is actually kind of a lot of the backroom stuff that you don't realize actually has to happen. And this is why we have to do things a certain way, or this is, what things could look like if they're not already like that.
Aaron Sorkin made West Wing, right?
I believe so. I don't have that information in front of me, but that sounds right.
If I recall correctly, I think like the Newsroom was kind of like a spiritual successor and was trying to do, excuse me, a lot of the things that you were talking about. But I just for whatever reason, I don't think the Newsroom has hit the cultural significance that I think the West Wing has.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the way we view media, right? The way we view media nowadays. We don't have, we're not going to sit there and just sit down on a Thursday night and watch a specific show. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that doesn't happen. Like, people still watch shows like that as it is, but now with streaming, all these different services, like I think the Newsroom was like an Apple TV exclusive.
HBO.
Oh, HBO. Excuse me.
Podcast and HBO. Now, honestly, I would disagree in episodic kind of going away, because I think what Disney Plus did with Mandalorian and has done since with every single one of their shows, all of those Disney Plus exclusives, originals, or whatever they're calling them, those are all weekly.
No, absolutely. And I think you misconstrued a little bit what I was saying. What I was saying is that it's not necessarily like the weekly shows. That still hits, and that has a great thing. It's that we don't all go to NBC to watch X. Instead, we go to Disney Plus. We have HBO Max, or don't have HBO Max, or don't have Netflix or Hulu or this or that. So now it's more difficult. I was listening to a podcast elsewhere, and they were talking about this kind of effect, to where they're talking about classic movies, and that it's kind of hard to really watch someone from nowadays, or like someone who's like 13, 14 now, if you're wanting to watch, like, let's say The Warriors, right, the epic movie from the 70s. It's kind of hard because it's like, okay, is that on Netflix? Well, no. Is it okay? Well, what streaming service is it on? I don't really know. So you'd have to like find a DVD or VHS if you still have those around.
If I may make a suggestion. There is a website. I don't know what the full URL is, but okay, yeah, I was right. It's called justwatch.com, and it literally it just tells you where things are streaming if they're available.
Wonderful. That's actually super handy.
Yeah, so I use it myself. They're not, not paying me, unfortunately, but I kind of wish they were. But
I know, right? God, that'd be great.
Free marketing. But they tell you when things are available and where, if it requires a streaming subscription, is it just a rental, that kind of thing. So I think the capability is there, but I think you're right in that the focus is not, and that it's not, nobody. Not 13 million people aren't going to go to NBC. You're never going to get, the finale of MASH again,
Yeah.
Or whatever the big one is. But the metrics have just completely shifted. And, now we're in the midst of, figuring out what the streaming wars are going to look like, especially now considering how the pandemic is impacting things, how much is where everyone's now streaming. But
you know what I hope for, John? I hope that the streaming wars are kind of like the old school WWF versus WCW Monday Night Wars, where WWF was taped, so WCW would just come on live and be like, "Yep, so hey, for WWF Raw's fucking announcements tonight, yeah, Mankind's winning. He's winning the world title. The Rock loses here. Stone Cold gets his ass whooped here." And I hope somebody from Netflix just, I don't know how they're gonna do it. Maybe it's just you pop on Netflix, ba-bong, and all of a sudden it's just some dude with a fucking paper in front of his face going, "So yeah, that show on Hulu, yeah, everybody fucking dies at the end. Just everybody dies. Don't even bother watching. Go watch this instead."
I'd be here for it. They turned Space Force into a TV show. Why not make the streaming wars into a TV show?
Why not, man?
It'd be like the Roger Rabbit of this generation.
Please
Jesus Christ.
No, but I understand your confusion. I'm gonna make it stick, man. I'm telling you, once this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So in other words, you're not bad. You're just drawn that way.
Yes, exactly. Oh my god. So, getting back to point, what else have I been watching? So those have been my main kind of staples. I've been watching. Speaking of wrestling, that's why the Monday Night Wars came to mind here. I've been watching a lot of wrestling.
Old school?
Yeah, a lot of on Twitch, actually, believe it or not. There's some channels dedicated just to watching like old school wrestling or like independent wrestling. So I've been watching a lot of that. Just trying to get tips and tricks to pass along to our announcers, who will be
announcing on the Ludic Wrestling Lounge. It's Ludic Wrestling Lounge.
That's a very long title. I hope that doesn't stick.
It doesn't.
Tonight on the Ludic Wrestling Lounge, League Lounge, League Lounge.
The lounge, it's lounge.
What would that be? The LWLLLLLLLL?
Sorry, folks. Our cat walked across our keyboard, and we're just kind of stuck with it. So bear with us.
So, yeah, just trying to get tips and tricks. That is just so nice to watch some of the classic matchups, classic matches. But let me tell you, this is my hot wrestling take. This is where I talk sports. A lot of them, like wrestling back then compared to nowadays, like not nearly as athletic, not nearly as entertaining as matches as you would watch current day. Like there's a lot more intricacies within today's wrestling that actually makes it a little bit more entertaining from the standpoint of just watching the two people wrestle. Like the moves they use, the timing that they have, compared to, you know, even just in the 90s, 2000s era. I think what carried a lot of that, what's missing from today's wrestling, is a lot of the promos, a lot of the huge, big personalities from back then that you fell in love with.
Your Macho Man's, your Hulk Hogan's, and
your Steve Austin's, Rock, Triple H, DX, all of those big that would just have epic promos. You're missing a lot of that in today's because, again, today's WWE is more G-rated. They're trying to get a wider array of audiences. They're not targeting like that 13 to 18-year-old dude. There's not there.
Not as much cocaine.
Yeah, and not as much cocaine, which is why there'll never be another Macho Man, RIP.
See, well, motherfucker was blitzed 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, but that's what made it interesting, man. The cream of the crop, I rise to the top. I'm just teeing this up for John to do his Macho Man impression, honestly, dear listeners. That's all I'm doing.
I got to get into it. Give me a sec. Cup of coffee, yeah. Cup of coffee, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm in the big time now. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I am the cream. And I rise to the top. Oh, yeah. Macho Man has got morphed over into Ludic madness. Yeah. Wow, man. Freak out.
I fucking love the end of that promo. Just out of nowhere. Like, Mean Gene's just like, okay, and that was Macho Man. And just, freak out. Yeah. And it's just like,
oh, my God. I'm going to be peeking like nobody's business.
So much peeking. But you know what? I think I want to post this to our YouTube channel. Just that like 30 seconds of video that you just did, because boy, that made it for me. I just tickled me. Oh, anyway. So moving a little more forward. God, guys, if you're still listening to us at this point, you know what, like 30 minutes in, boy, do we ever appreciate you, dear listeners.
We love you dearly.
So dearly. Shifting gears into what I'm playing right now, I just finished the Banner Saga trilogy, which was a video game that I had for my Xbox. The best way to describe it is if you took the concept of like Oregon Trail, where it's like you're this clan of people moving from one place to the other, and you applied it to an apocalyptic Viking clan. So essentially, you play this leader of a Viking clan who the end of the world, it's literally Ragnarok. The end of the world is coming, and you're trying to just move your family to a place of haven, your clan to a place of haven, and wackiness just ensues. And by wackiness, I mean just like battle after battle, and then you have to make tough decisions. Essentially by the end of game 3, not everybody makes it. And it's just such beautifully, the soundtrack on it is just epic. Just brings you to tears just based off of the music alone, and just the video, the art for it's all just hand drawn. There's not a lot of voice acting, but where there is acting, it just hits so perfectly.
They use it so sparingly, right?
Yeah, they use it so sparingly that when it's in the game itself, it's just so smooth, so it hits all the right points. If you're a fan of strategy games like real-time strategy where you have to move 8 characters on like a 3x3 block square to go to attack, you're going to love this game because that's exactly what the combat is. It's not like a hack and slash, it's not like anything like that. It's literally, you have to have strategy. You can't just run everybody at the enemy at once. You have to have strategy, know that, okay, this person is going to be the bulk, my tank, if you will. By tank, I mean the character. It's going to absorb the most damage and deal the most damage, and then you have to position all your other characters accordingly from that point. It really challenges you. If you play on super hard mode, like there's permadeath, meaning like characters will die, never come back.
That's real shit right there.
Yeah, and that's real shit. That harkens back to an age of gaming, like the old school RPGs of yore.
Were RTS really big for you when you were a kid?
No, actually, not at all. That's the funny part about it is I never really played a lot of strategy games until, in my 20s, really, with XCOM, which has the same concept, but, with Space Marines fighting aliens, and now with, like, Banner Saga. And I find myself kind of really enjoying it. I don't think I would play it 24/7, right? But just as a nice kind of change of pace from some of my other games, I really like it. I don't think I would have enjoyed it if it was just so combat heavy and we didn't have the narrative side, the soundtrack side, and you didn't have all the other beautiful aspects of it. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. I know if you have Xbox One and you have Xbox Game Pass, all 3 games were there for a while. I don't know if they're getting swapped out soon. Unfortunately, it just kind of happens. They, add more games, they take away games. Last I read that I think were taking off the 3rd game and possibly 2nd game. But overall, it's for all the consoles, PC, Nintendo Switch, Sony PlayStation 4, and, of course, Microsoft Xbox.
Sale on PlayStation Network for about $20 a week or so ago. So I don't know if that sale is still in effect, but I have it. I bought it. I haven't played it yet because I'm still getting through other shit. But I took advantage of that deal. So if that deal is around, get on that.
Yeah, and the deal John was referring to, again, if you didn't hear for some reason, it was all 3 games because it's a trilogy, 3 games for just $20 total, which was super awesome because I think I paid double that for 2 of the 3 games because I already owned the first one for some reason. So, yeah, if that deal's still going on, great. If not, just wait till it goes on sale again. And it definitely gets the Ludic Lounge seal of approval, if that's a thing. Might be a thing. Yeah, fuck it. It's a thing.
We're making it a thing right now. Why not?
Outside of that, before I give the mic over to John, as far as what he's watching and playing, since I finished that, I've been playing a lot more MLB The Show with my franchise, my beloved San Diego Padres. Go Friars. And I've also gotten back into Red Dead Redemption 2 because apparently I wanted to just kill myself in online mode and just get pwned with, no kills and 16 deaths that I talked to John about before we hopped on here. Boy, did I get my ass whooped.
Yeah. Is it like GTA Online a little bit?
A little bit. I played a game mode, which is like essentially a team battle. So it was a group of 5 of us versus a group of a different 5. And we were just, battle royale, kill each other. After you get a 20-minute time period, whoever scores the most points wins. But outside of that, if you don't want to play those specific modes, the online mode actually is pretty interesting. You create your own character in the Old West. You can actually, now they've added very recently, you can take, not only could you do jobs within the game itself to get money, renown, etc., but you can actually specialize in jobs. So they have a bounty hunter class, they have a trader class, they have a collector class. They have all these different like actual specialty trait jobs. And if you specialize in one of these, then like example, if you're the bounty hunter class, I haven't chosen one yet, but I assume you do a lot of bounty hunter missions where you take on other players that are on the server with you. And if they have a huge bounty on their head, you take them down and get cash rewards for them. So it's an interesting concept. I'm just probably not going to do it because, again, I'm just terrible playing against other people.
Yeah, and I was never the biggest fan. Like, I know you and I tried to do the the heists on GTA, but we never could get enough people to effectively do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing with these games, whether it be GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5, or Red Dead. If you don't have a good posse together, a good squad of like 4 or 5 solid people, and you try to do it with like 1 or 2 people by yourself, you're just going to get owned because that's how people play these games. They get all their friends together, and it's just a numbers game. And a lot of the times they dedicate so many hours into this game and this mode that they're just excellent. So you have 5 excellent people facing off 2 casual gamers to online gaming. And then you just get your ass handed to you.
It's just straight up pwnage frequently.
So, John, what are you watching? What are you playing?
Well, more reading, to be honest.
Good for you. Expand that vocabulary.
It's all free. So reading, playing, watching. I finished a couple books. I'm going to only really talk about 2. One was the Mass Effect Andromeda novel Annihilation, which was written by personal favorite author of mine, Catherine M. Valente. And it's about the Quarian arc for Mass Effect Andromeda fans. It's the story of what happens to our friends, the Quarians, the Drell, the Hanar, and the Elcor. For those of you not versed in Mass Effect, those are all alien species that you encounter during your travels as Commander Shepard. Unfortunately, with Mass Effect Andromeda, the sequel to the Mass Effect trilogy, it was much maligned for a number of reasons, which,
some are valid. Yeah, some are valid. Some of the concerns were absolutely valid. But for my hot take, number 2 of the day, I feel like people didn't give it a fair shake. A lot of the stuff is totally valid, like some of the animations, a lot of the, open world bullshit, as I like to call it, where there's just way too many things where it's like, okay, look, I'm going to give you a quest, but you have to go to this specific planet and meet this person who tells you have to go to the opposite side of the galaxy to get another quest from this person, do another thing. And It was just too much of that. And, where it was like a 120-hour game, it could have easily been cut in half and still been a really good game. But the fair shake that I feel like it doesn't deserve is the fact that people were hearkening for the trilogy, like the development of characters and the close character connections that you had as your main person and your squad mates. But what people don't understand or fail to understand is that in Mass Effect trilogy, you had 3 games to develop all of the chemistry. You had 3 develops to have all of this character arcs and all of that. Whereas Mass Effect Andromeda, you didn't have that. It's one single game. And what I argue with people about, and by people I mean myself and whoever else wants to listen to me on Twitter and all the social media apps, is that if you just take Mass Effect 1 as a solo game, it is a lot different than what you remember. What I mean by that is some of the characters you love, some of the squad mates, they're not very deep characters. They are not they don't have arcs or much of an arc at all. Once you reach the dialogue wheel and you're done with them, you're done with them. They're just there to like have a snide comment every once in a while, and they don't really develop.
And I think a lot of people failed to comprehend about Andromeda is that Andromeda, and this is like a recollection on something I saw one of the producers say, is that Andromeda was like meant to be the ultimate version of what they wanted to do in the first Mass Effect. So that's why you have a big giant vehicle that you can traverse multiple planets on. And the ambitions of Andromeda are probably within the same wheelhouse as that first Mass Effect game, where it's just like, this is an introduction. This is setup. This is, more about getting everybody comfortable into this new universe so that we can tell different stories than what, happened with Shepard and the Reapers. Because, it's, you run into the risk of just repeating yourself with a different skin, and I doubt BioWare would want to build a reskin Mass Effect trilogy and just slap a Andromeda on it and tell the same damn story. I doubt they want to tell the same story.
And honestly, to be fair, the crew of Andromeda, like all your squad mates and stuff, like by the end of the game, you feel a sense of unity. You feel a sense of like family. Because while like in the first Mass Effect, just Mass Effect 1, you don't get that. It's just everyone, all these individuals that just so happen to follow you on adventures.
And they all have their own personal needs, you know? It's
Yeah.
like arguably the I think the only family that arises out of that first Mass Effect game is whoever Shepard romances, if anybody, and whoever lives from Vermeer. Now, I think that's about it.
Spoilers.
I mean, yeah, I didn't give.
That's all right. I mean, by now it's like what, a 20-something-year-old, not 20-something, but it's like 10-year game.
15 at least.
Yeah, 10, 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's just, if you haven't played it, it's well worth your time. And it sounds like the novel genre's reading regarding some of the things was excellent.
It pisses me off, but I love the book, but it pisses me off because it's just like we're never going to see a proper resolution, or at least it doesn't seem like we're getting a resolution to what happens to these people on the Quarian Arc, because some shit goes down, and like there's a reason that it's the end tag about what happens to the Quarian Arc in the game is so ambiguous, is because they're in I won't give away spoilers because I think people should read it. The Quarian Arc is in a position where it cannot be easily rescued, and the circumstances behind it are very screwed up culturally, because there's essentially somebody advocates for multicultural genocide, which is fucking crazy.
Which, by the way, sounds like a pretty fucking kick-ass metal band.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Opening for Metallica, it's multicultural genocide.
That was one book I read that I'd like to talk about. The other one ties into some other stuff I was reading comic wise. I read a nonfiction book about my favorite comic book writer. An old friend of ours referred to him as my personal Lord and Savior at one point. Because I just love his stuff. I read a book called Grant Morrison, The Early Years, by a guy named Tim Callahan. The publisher, Sequart, which stands for Sequential Art.
Oh, okay.
I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
I don't know. It sounded like a shitty ripoff of like the People's Court. Dun 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 dun.
Sequart.
Dun dun dun.
Sequart.
Dun dun dun. And they're like just in there, like syndicated television, fighting over like battles over the ocean or something.
And it plays after Matlock.
Matlock.
That's a dated ass reference.
Yes,
that's only for us.
That's only for us. And if there's one tagline to describe this podcast, Ludic Loungecast, an outdated reference machine.
Yeah. We might need to do like a whole episode where it's just outdated. Well, that's every episode.
That's it. John, what are you talking about, man? That's been like 4 episodes now.
I know. I'm just saying, like, maybe we should just let's get more obscure. Let's just see how bad we can get it.
We want people to keep following us and to keep coming back. We had like 30 episode 1. I hope we have more than that. Which, by the way, if you did listen and you rated, you reviewed, we appreciate you. Yes, you listening right now, goddammit. We appreciate you, you sexy fucking beast.
You always say the nicest things.
But I say them menacingly to make sure it sticks with them.
I can tell. Anyway, back to the plane that we have to land.
Oh, Jesus, I know. We're so bad at that.
It's just that it's part and parcel with this show, buddy.
Yeah, the good old PP, part and parcel.
So the Early Years book kind of goes into the early phases of his comics writing career. It goes into like 5 different texts. A book called Zenith that he did back in the UK. It was like his first really big break. Batman: Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, which came around the same time as the first Burton movie. So it made a whole shit ton.
Sounds serious, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. His run on Animal Man, a short.
I am not an animal.
I am a superhero.
Jesus, nobody's gonna understand these references, man.
David Bowie would.
He's dead.
I know, but he was the Elephant Man once. But
It's funny. That was John's nickname in high school because unfortunately, after gym class one day, he was in the showers and they got a good look at his under region there, and they're like, "Oh God, he's the Elephant Man."
edit point. That did not happen.
Edit points. Except for the fact that John has a huge penis.
Uh-huh. Awkward pause, awkward pause, awkward
pause.
I
want to let it just sit for a little bit longer, man. Just everyone at home going, okay, why am I listening to this again?
Because they love us.
If you're playing the Ludic Loungecast drinking game, then take a shot, because I mentioned the word penis and or John's penis.
Is that one of the rules?
I mean, it might as well be, because I've said the word penis or dick or some sort of synonym of that, especially referring to you and or myself. Actually, don't do that. That shouldn't be a rule, because they'd probably be just, full of just alcohol poisoning by now.
Yeah, I would think so. Back to the plane.
Oh, God, I know. Yes. Sorry, John. I'm sorry.
It covers Arkham Asylum and then another Batman story called Gothic and Doom Patrol, which a lot of the Morrison era Doom Patrol was served as some inspiration for the TV show Doom Patrol.
Okay, I have to sidetrack us again, because the way you say Doom Patrol, I instantly and we were talking about Bowie, so I'm thinking like, this is Morrison to Doom Patrol. I'm writing this comic.
You know what? I'm gonna say okay to that, because that was amazing.
Thank you. It stays in the podcast. No edit point.
Well, everything stays in the podcast.
Yeah, I do a shitty job at editing.
The only thing that doesn't stay in the podcast is me peeking, and that's it.
Yeah, I got to turn that shit down, man. Times you too. I probably might be peeking now that I have this beautiful mic, which is why you can hear the sensual tones of one Anthony co-host.
Anthony J co-host.
I wonder if we can do like an ASMR bit, like if I just kind of mess with the mic.
You just turned on a lot of people right now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting off track. John, please continue with Grant Morrison. Land the plane.
ASMR corner.
Land the plane. Land the plane.
Landing the plane. Okay, so the book kind of goes into, or doesn't kind of, it does go into all five of those, and it presents the argument of, this is, if you read this book, you will understand how to comprehend all of his later works, because they all kind of float together in the same kind of topics, and how the themes Grant likes to look into, how he approaches superheroes, at least. So all of this leads to a big giant DC Comics reread that I'm doing of all of his DC stuff. So I'm starting essentially from chronological order and going straight to the most recent thing he had published. So I reread Arkham Asylum, which in part served for basis for the first Batman Arkham video game. At least the premise is just
that makes sense.
Yeah, the basic premise is that Batman is just trapped in Arkham Asylum and has to survive.
And he has to just punch the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, that's what the game does. The book is a lot more cerebral, because something that the comic doesn't necessarily tell you is that it's serving as a dream. It's essentially a dream that Batman is having during his actual sleep. It's a daymare, I guess you can call it, instead of a nightmare. And his artistic partner is Dave McKean, who it's all hand painted. So it's a lot. It's not as traditional as what you would think a Batman comic would be. I mean, I think the traditional take on that story is what the video game is, where it's just, he's stuck in the asylum. He has to fight his way out.
Would you say that the art style is pretty clean, though?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell it's muddy here and there, particularly around the Joker, because the way Dave McKean, draws the Joker is that he's very chaotic, and the speech bubbles for Joker are a little hard to decipher, so you have to slow down a little bit.
But overall, for the most part, Dave McKean draws pretty clean.
Oh my! Right into that.
You walked, motherfucker, right into that.
Fucking hell!
One does not walk simply into Ludic Loungecast.
Oh, you sumbitch! To land the plane, keep landing the plane because I'm steering this plane.
Land the plane. Land the plane.
I finished rereading his Animal Man stuff, and Animal Man is like a C-list character. He can just like take on the traits of animals, and like you can combine like.
What degree are we talking?
He doesn't transform. He just gets the ability to do like if he choose, he can combine like the olfactory senses of a dog and like a lion and create like a super sense or a super smell.
With a cock of just a massive proportions, like a giant horse cock.
It does not physically transform, so sorry. No, I'm sorry.
Well, now you just lost me, John.
Yeah, but Animal Man is one of those Vertigo comics classics. It started DC and then ended up considered a Vertigo book, which is now sadly no longer in existence. So R.I.P. Vertigo. Animal Man is like it's like 26 issues of somewhat interconnected stories. They all kind of stand alone, but they all build up to a pretty significant ending that has kind of never really been done since. But like stick through the first 5 issues. If you get like DC Universe, you can probably read them. Because the first 4 he's doing an Alan Moore impression, and then by issue 5 he kind of does his own thing.
Okay.
He does the issue 5 in particular is the thing that kind of indicated where the story was going. It's called the Coyote Gospel, and the elevator pitch is that what happens if Wile E. Coyote got Animal Man's not really in it. He kind of comes in a little bit later, but
okay.
This cartoon coyote kind of gets questions what the meaning of life is, because he just lives in a cartoon universe where there's no stakes and everybody just gets blown up and then it's fine. He challenges God, which is the illustrator, and God sends him to the real world, and he experiences pain, but he can't die because he's a cartoon.
That sounds like a fucked up comic, man.
Fucking amazing.
Jesus.
So like that's like the kind of stuff if that doesn't interest you, go with God.
That's John's nice way of saying that doesn't just interest you. Fuck off.
I mean, I was being polite about it. It's like if it doesn't tickle your fancy, that's okay. There's plenty of other stuff.
It's all right. John knows how to tickle a fancy. That's for sure.
Oh, stop it with your sweet nothings. Game wise, I'm still playing a lot of the same stuff, but I finally beat Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes. How'd you like the ending?
It was cute. It was very cute. I mean, you don't play Mario games, I think, necessarily for the story.
True.
And like the end game of that was just like a lot of, going back and getting more of those power moons that are like the collectible in that game. And it was just, I was satisfied by just beating Bowser, saving the princess, and calling it a day. So, and I just looked up because I looked up like the super secret final ending boss level thing, because apparently that's something that exists if you collect every single moon in the game.
Of course, yeah.
Which is like 999 of them.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
man.
And I just don't have. I don't. If I was younger and had no other responsibilities, I think I would probably do that. But.
Which you actually did. This is kind of behind the curtain, but John was the kind of gamer back in our youngin' days where he would 100% every single fucking game he would play. Like all achievements, all trophies, no matter what, John would 100% every game. And I shit you not, the one I remember is when he did Skyrim, And again, Skyrim by itself, if you're just playing it willy-nilly, is a very lengthy fucking game. But this fucking mad lad of a best friend of mine, straight up like 100% of everything in Skyrim, which how many hours would you even estimate you dropped in Skyrim doing the 100% trail?
Like 150 plus or something.
Jesus Christ, you mad lad.
I don't even remember. Like, I remember when Skyrim came out and I just like absorbed everything, and I was just like, and I was like a console. That was when it originally came out on the 360.
Yeah, now it's on like every platform ever made, essentially by now.
On every platform ever made. The fucking Mass Effect trilogy.
Oh God, soon, John, soon.
I know. I can hope. But my fiance and I just watched, like, we just looked it up on YouTube, kind of the secret stuff. Like, there's like what Peach goes on a vacation, you know, after the game, and you can follow her. And then there's like a super secret level that we watched it. It was literally insane. It's like, it was the most challenging thing I ever saw in a Mario game. And it was just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to
like challenging like the level design, or just like challenging like you couldn't grasp the concept of what was going on?
A bit of both, to be honest. Yeah, the law school answer, it depends. So like the way that it's like this final level essentially is like a big giant thank you from the developers to the gamers, and it literally runs you through like every world you went through in some fashion. So you start at point A to get to point B to get the big final, you know, thank you achievement thing. And it was just like, I'm content watching that. I don't need to do it.
Yeah. You know what, John? I know we kind of had a core concept that we wanted to talk about gaming, but I think I want to take a twist. So, sorry, listeners, I'm kind of going to derail the rest of this, and we're going to change concepts. What you just mentioned about like how you're like, nah, I don't want to finish it. I just want to. We just saw it on YouTube. Have you ever just stopped to think about how gaming has just evolved from when we were playing of yore, where there was no YouTube, or if there was, it was very, 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 just, basic, essentially, I guess. It was looking
like, we remember when YouTube had 3-minute limits, right?
Yes.
Like, I remember when they took off you can make a 10-hour video and all people would do is just like make like 10 hours of fart noises.
Yeah, pretty much.
Some bullshit like that.
Yeah, but now it's like it's gotten to a point where like I think of like games like Metroid or is it Super Metroid where essentially you figure out that Samus is a girl, but the only way you could figure that out is if you actually finish the entire game on a certain difficulty, which again, this was a well-kept secret for like years upon years upon years, that it was only like whispers and rumors that, oh, I think this is actually a thing. But nowadays, like I said, if you have a super secret like that, you can just literally Google search or do a YouTube search, NES, Samus, or Metroid 2 or Metroid ending, and it just, boom, pull it up right there. You'll never have to do that level or do that difficulty ever. And it makes me think, like we were talking about games like Mass Effect, where you could just literally, there's multiple endings, multiple paths you can take, et cetera, et cetera. And it makes me think, it's like people nowadays, I feel like, aren't doing those multiple endings or multiple storylines. They will just do their primary one and go, you know what, I'll just YouTube the rest, or I'll just watch it on Twitch. I'll just watch these guys play through it. And I don't know, I guess the question I'm trying to pose to you, John, is do you think that there's something lost in that? Or do you think it's just evolved into a bigger and better place? Or is it in between?
You're going to hate me again because law school answer, it depends.
Oh, Jesus Christ, John. Pick a side!
I can't. I have to advocate both. Just so I understand correctly, you're trying to figure out, is it necessarily a bad thing that we're losing this interactivity and that anybody can look up an entire game, watch it through its completion, and not have to have picked up a controller, or is it okay because the nature of gaming has evolved?
I think originally started off with me, old man, yelling at Cloud, and then eventually I finessed my point enough to make it sound, profound to some degree.
I think that it, the way game culture has changed. I mean, I think the most prevalent example I think most people have of games is, Super Mario, where it is you are jumping over things to go save somebody, princess or whomever. It's usually a princess, but those are, you had games where you were kind of solitary. You had multiplayer, fighting games like Street Fighter and then Mortal Kombat and so on. Whatever other versions of those exist. And this isn't the first time games have evolved. I mean, it used to be, it was just, you had to go to an arcade, you didn't have a home console, and
Yeah,
then home
fair,
console
fair.
started being a thing. And then, you have the Nintendo 64 and what Sony could do with the PlayStation, and, all the other consoles in between that I can't think to mention because I just don't have the experience with
Yeah,
them.
and that's totally fair. But with those, it was a lot of like, for example, it was like, okay, pass the controller, pass the controller,
Yeah.
pass the controller. Maybe co-op in certain cases, but for the most part. But again, there still wasn't this. It was still like, if there were excuse me, if there were multiple endings to a game, a person would have to play that game or replay that game or replay that game just to see it.
Yeah.
Or maybe they never do it because the concept of a multiple ending was never even thought of to them.
Well, now we're all, you kind of rushed me to the point where it's just like the way this industry has kept evolving has necessitated, changes in how we view gaming. So I think that the moment you start putting people online, that changes what games most would like to play. Because I imagine there are some people who just exclusively play, you know, online games, whether it be a shooter or an MMO or whatever. They don't like, the single player games because they're more concerned about creating that experience for themselves and whoever they play with.
That party environment, essentially.
Yeah, a party environment, and that's something that I think started with like GoldenEye, and you can have
Hell yeah.
you have that 4-player GoldenEye thing going on, and then you start finding ways to connect all of those on LAN parties or whatever.
Oh, don't even get me started about LAN parties. One of my favorite gaming moments was back in like around junior high, was on the original Xbox. Like everybody bringing their original Xbox, hooking it up via LAN party with multiple TVs in multiple rooms, and just having a 16v16 or just some fucking bullshit like that, or an 8v8 battle. And it was one of the just most favorite moments. I was actually talking to some coworkers about this earlier this week, and man, like that was just like the epitome of gaming
At the time.
at the time, right?
Now I think that you're also dealing with, and we've talked about this separately many a time, is that there's so much out there now that it always seemed like, when at least when we were younger, and this is just my perspective, correct me if you have
You're
something
wrong, John. You're just wrong.
But I mean, like it seemed like every year there'd be like maybe you'd have 4 or 5 probably 4 big AAA titles that everybody had to play, and then you kind of just did what you verged off the path as much as your interest waned. Now I feel like that's quadrupled, and I think that as younger gamers come up, it is easier to put in the YouTube time on a truncated play so that they can get the gist about it and see if it's something that they want to do for themselves. And if they don't, they don't.
Yeah, because that's one of the biggest arguments when you talk about people who, I made the joke about, old men yelling at cloud regarding how gaming was and is into now, but that's one of the bigger arguments in the industry nowadays, or just in the pop culture lexicon, if you will, that it's just like, well, they're not even playing the games anymore. They're just fucking watching somebody play the games. And they're making it like a degrading to it. And it took me kind of a little while, but I mean, to a certain degree, and again, this may seem like flip-flopping, but to a certain degree, I think it enriches the environment because, again, it goes back to that party system, that community, right? Like you're seeing, yes, you're watching some person play, Fortnite or something like that. Whereas, yeah, I could easily be playing that myself, but I'm watching somebody who's, I'm assuming, entertaining, to watch. You're watching an entertainer play it. You're maybe learning tips. You're learning tricks. And not only are you by yourself watching this, but you're like in a group chat, essentially a viral group chat of like hundreds of people that you can meet, greet, and have this community.
That's how you get something like Discord, which is creating different communities for different streamers, different games, different interests, so on and so on. I mean, I think that if people aren't willing to have the conversation, then they're about change and where it's going and the positive aspect of it. Sure, I think they're just dwelling on the negative part of it and not really willing to say, okay, this has changed. What's good? But I think too many people are lost in the I want it the way it was because I liked that. And, it's the nostalgia trap. I think that's something that way too many people fall into nowadays.
It's a trap.
Yeah, nostalgia is just bait. It's just bait to hook you in, and it doesn't necessarily mean the thing is going to be good, but it's just going to make you feel good because it reminds you of something you've already done as opposed to experiencing something new.
Right. But it's an easy cash grab for a lot of these industries, right? Like to do like a remastered or new port of said game.
I mean, you can get super insular to it. I mean, like, I hesitate to bring up my passive obsession with Final Fantasy VII remake right now, but I mean, I think because it is very much a passive obsession at this point. But I mean, like, that's like, from what I gather, like, it's just like it's almost a completely different experience than what you get at the base game. So it's just like, at what point do remasters stop and remakes become the more prevalent thing? Because I think to put it to Mass Effect, I don't think a remaster of 1 is necessarily going to be in Mass Effect's best favor, because I think that the system that they came up with as they've gone through games, from 1 to 2 is a complete evolution, 2 to 3 is a refinement, 3 to Andromeda, they're almost two completely different things, but you can see the DNA.
Right.
So, like, but I think by this point, and what the game culture requires out of a third-person shooter like that, I don't think Mass Effect 1 holds a candle. And I think it would be to the trilogy's detriment if they kept the game as is. So the question becomes, well, do they remake it? And what does that mean? Does it mean that only 1 gets remade? Does 2 and 3 get remade? Is it the same game at that point? I don't know.
Well, if it was Anthony running BioWare, EA, whatever have you, at that point, yeah, I mean, 1, you would have to change the combat. I mean, this is me. I played it within the last year, I'll say, playing it, and the combat itself is just it's so just antiquated at this point. And if you're not playing a specific class, it's just even harder to do.
And even the cover system is absolute garbage.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean by just antiquated. But even like Mass Effect 2 and 3, you could get away with using the same system. Like, again, having played the trilogy within the year, again, for the Xbox via backwards compatibility, those two systems still work. I mean, they feel a little clunky, and it feels like it's a part of the bygone era of that generation. But for the most part, you could still get away with it, and you could slap on just HD on it, and I think it would work fine. But yeah, that first one overall, I feel like they'd have to retool it almost, and then you have to make the argument: okay, am I going to sink X amount of resources in doing that, or just make a new internal project at that point?
Lately, I've been of the mindset where it's just like, let's just do new instead of retread. But I mean, I don't think that's going to go away anytime.
I mean, we were talking about Andromeda, man, and we were talking about how like people were just dunking on it, just hated on it, and that was them trying to do like a kind of a new thing within that world. So, I mean, right there, then and there, they have proof. Like, yeah, no, ain't gonna work, dog. Ain't gonna work. We tried it and fucking just got dunked on. So why wouldn't we just go back to the money pot at that point and just do a remaster?
Yeah, I think that's going to be something we'll see in the next a couple months, maybe a year. And maybe they'll put in money towards things that are sure things. Like I think putting out the Mass Effect trilogy again, as for the current generation, I think might be enough to get you definitely get the older players, the people who've been with it since Jump, but then you also get the new crowd who've heard about it. So then that's just money waiting on the table,
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, if you think about it, like we said, 15 years ago, the original one came out. So 10 years ago, I think it was for Mass Effect 2 and 3, something along those lines. Again, loosely. But again, like if you think about it, there are people right now who are 15 years old, which means they were born just as these games were being made, which means that it was not even in their lexicon until, let's say, age 8, 9, 10. Right.
Yeah.
I keep using lexicon tonight. I don't understand. I hope it works. I'm trying to sound sophisticated. So, yeah, it's okay. John, as my resident lawyer, says it works, so it works. But essentially, yeah, so these people only know about it from secondhand because I doubt they took the time to actually play it. So it is essentially a new market. You're tapping into a new market while still, rubbing the old one out.
Rubbing out, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd pick up on that.
No, I did. But yeah, I'm still playing a lot of other stuff. I'm going to be jumping back into
transition.
Going to be transitioning soon. Movie-wise, then this will be the last thing before we get into the main topic, or whatever comes next. My fiance and I watched a movie called Midsummer. It's a kind of a horror. It's a horror movie, cult horror movie, set in Sweden, and it's about a couple of American students whose Swedish friend invites them to come to Sweden with him to visit his hometown, which is a commune.
And of course, because they're shitty white Americans, they fuck something up and raise like some sort of demon, and then they.
No, it's not. Honestly, it's not what you think. It's a very introspective movie. It's ostensibly about the female lead played by an actress named Florence Pugh, who is going to be starring opposite Scarlett Johansson
in Black
Widow.
Pew, 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 pew.
Oh my! Well, she's going pew, pew, pew in Black Widow, so it works.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, she's like a little baby ScarJo, to be honest. She gives off Scarlett Johansson vibes, at least in her performance and her physical look. So it makes sense that she got cast as a sister in Black Widow. But it's a weird ass movie. It's a beautifully shot movie. It's beautifully performed, but it is fucked up.
So let's give it the official Ludic Loungecast rating. Let's say 5 being you need to watch this right now. 1 being like don't even waste your fucking time. Or we'll say 0, don't even waste your fucking time.
I put it at a solid 4.5.
Okay. I thought you were going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to give you the lawyer answer of it depends.
No. I can be objective when the situation calls for it.
Okay. I mean, 4.5. Damn, man.
It's one of the best shot movies I've seen in a long time.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the elevator pitch for that is that it's a breakup movie disguised as a cult horror movie.
Huh.
So I'll leave our loyal listeners with that and see if that tickles their fancy. See if they can figure out why exactly I use that description of it. But
John teasing the audience.
I know, it's fun, right? You do it all the time. I gotta get on that action. But yeah, that's what I've been reading. That's what I've been watching. That's what I've been playing.
So, if you're still listening to us at this point, God bless you, because this was a wild-ass episode.
Oh, wow. I mean, we went all over the place. Plane got hijacked.
Several times.
We lost direction a couple times, but it's okay. We landed it.
In the Bermuda Triangle.
It's okay. Superman's there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So, John, for you, for myself, for all of our loyal listeners out there, thank you for listening. And now, John, you're going to give us that amazing ending that you did and always do.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for lounging with us. Good night.
Good night.